Bam, we're often pretty negative about movies and comic books and video games and stuff these days. Um, I'm guilty of it. Um, so is everyone else, and with good reason. I mean, a lot of these things used to be very good and aren't anymore. Um, and as some of you know, I don't really talk about like DC and Marvel, etc. anymore because it's no longer for me. I'm no longer the target audience for that, and I can sit there and give them free promotions and advertise all their terrible movies, etc. Um, all I want and get clicks if I really wanted to, but I don't see the point. There are other people doing that, but it got me thinking. We're very negative. Everyone online, you'll see, oh, DC screwed this up, Marvel screwed this up. This movie's gonna be bad. This movie's gonna be bad. You know, like that's how it is. This video game's gonna suck, and everyone does it. Everyone makes these sort of rage baity kind of videos. But I'm a little bit different because I'm creative in mind. I'm a writer. I have a vision for this sort of stuff. Not saying everyone else that doesn't, but that's my sort of angle on this. And I'm a martial artist, but that's probably less to do with this. But I'm also a massive fan of this stuff, or at least I grew up being one. Recently, not so much because it's not as good. But I didn't want to just be negative. I figured, you know what? It's bad. We know that it's bad. But what would I do? How would I do it better? Instead of just being someone complaining about something, how would I do it? And so I have decided to share that with you guys. How would I do it? And we're going to start with Batman. How would I do a Batman movie? We all know on record, I think, in terms of live action, I think Christopher Nolan did a good job, but I do not think he made the best Batman movies. If you read the comics and then translate it to screen, I do not think he nailed that. And look, some people say controversial, and that's fair. I also think the Robert Pattinson Batman is worse than the Nolan stuff. And then the 90s stuff, I kind of throw in its own category of 90s cheese, where they have redeeming aspects to them. And so let's just start with the setting. It's Batman, right? Now, Batman as a comic book, it's a pretty wacky comic when you really think about it. Too many people recently have said, oh, well, we're going to try and make it real. You can't do that. It doesn't work. It's too silly. And there's too much going on, and you restrict yourself creatively way too much. So I would sort of take the Nolan-esque and the Zack Snyder approach to Batman as a character, but with the Tim Burton sort of villainry, like approach to villains and setting. I think that's probably the best way to do it. We sort of mix the set pieces and stuff from the 90s with the more modern and technically better setups and character development from the more modern movies. So in terms of setting, that's what I would try and do, is blend those two together for visuals, because that works the best. In terms of casting, I regret, like, when Robert Pattinson was announced as Batman, I was like, yeah, he could do it. So yeah, he could do it. He could do a good job. I regret that so much. The guy's a piece of crap. Terrible Batman. But anyway, so yep, that's. I mean, I don't regret it, but like, egg on my face for thinking he would be good. I was right about Ben Affleck though. So who would I have for Batman? Well, there's two directions we could go with this, guys. You could have the older, wiser, more grizzled Batman, or you could have the younger year 1, 2, 3 style Batman. You know, you could have the Ben Affleck or the Pattinson, so to speak. That's sort of the two sort of approaches you could go with this. So if we're going older, more grizzled Batman who's been doing it for a while, Scott Adkins. If we're doing younger Batman, Scott Adkins. No, but really, Scott Adkins is my number one choice for like an older Batman. You have to get tricky with the cameras because he's not the tallest person in the world. But I mean, for a guy who's 48, he looks fantastic. He's in top shape. He can fight and he can act. So, I mean, and he visually looks right. So Scott Adkins, because I'm the sort of person where I'm not going to do like the Bourne style fight scenes where it's all special tricks with the cameras, etc. If you're gonna fight, I'm gonna take a approach from the Jackie Chan sort of, you know, school of fighting choreography where you set everything up and you let the audience see it in a single take, etc. Like that's what I would want to do. So Scott Adkins would be my top to go to actor for Batman. If we're going with the younger Batman, in all seriousness, say yes, Scott Adkins could pull it off because the guy's 48 and he looks like he's 37. But if we're going with a younger Batman, I'd probably go, and I hate to say this because it's kind of trendy at the moment, but Brandon Sklenar, I don't know how you say his name. I haven't seen him in much, but I did catch 1923, which he's like the best character, well, one of the best characters on Helen Mirren's the best character in that show, but 1923, right? This guy's got the physical height. He's only 34 years old. And if you look at 1923 specifically in season 2, not so much season 1, in season 2, he gets to be a bit angrier. He gets to have a bit more purpose. And he really shows a very mature, in terms of acting, like skill set of emotional, harboring like rage, and he can do the fight scenes. Like he actually has a very intimidating presence, and the guy's like 6'2", 6'3", something like that. Like, he's a very tall guy. So I think for a young Bruce Wayne, I think he could really pull it off. If you go on the young Bruce Wayne route versus the older Bruce Wayne route. So it depends whether you want to do like a year 1, 2, 3 story, if you want to do a year 4, 5, 6 story. And the same thing goes with my thoughts for Alfred. We have 2 potential Alfreds here. If we're going with the older Batman with Scott Adkins, then I would cast Ralph Fiennes as Alfred. The guy's 62. If you've seen him recently, he's in top shape, and Alfred has to be in top shape. For a lot of people who don't know, Alfred's not just the butler. This guy is like secret military. He's done like Green Beret, I believe it is, before becoming the Wayne's butler. He was like their butler, bodyguard, security guy. And you'll understand in a moment, but you need to have someone who has a physique and a look to him that says, oh yeah, I can believe this guy was in the military. Like, you can't have Michael Caine running around like chasing after Bruce, trying to save him, etc., because it's just not believable. So Ralph Fiennes, I still don't know how you say his last name, but I would have him as Alfred. I just think he would be an amazing Alfred. However, and some people might get mad at me for this one, if we're going with the younger Brandon Sklenar Batman route, then John Hamm is my Alfred. Because Brandon Sklenar is 34, John Hamm is 54. So he's 20 years older. So if you think about it, if we're going with sort of like a late 20s Batman where he's just sort of come back from all the training, etc., then that would have made Alfred sort of late 20s when he went away. So Alfred could be like the new butler. He's been doing this for 5, 6, 7 years with the Waynes. They've hired him fresh out of the military or whatever. And now we've got this sort of, 54-year-old John Hamm Alfred with a 34-year-old Brandon Sklenar. And I think John Hamm would be a very good Alfred. You have to stretch the imagination and look at them across different movies. These guys are actors, so don't just typecast him as what you've seen him in, but think about what he could technically do. So John Hamm would be my young Batman Alfred. And the cool thing with that is if it was successful in like 20 years, you could do the 54-year-old Brandon Sklenar and the 74-year-old old man Alfred, John Hamm thing. And that would be very cool as well. So that sets that up. Nightwing would be my next one. Oh, and I should mention, not everyone. I'm not going to be able to cast all Batman characters here. I'm just throwing out some popular ones for a general idea. Nightwing or Robin. So I don't have a Robin, and the reason why is because I think if you're going to go with a young Batman, Robin's not in the picture yet, or if he is, he's a young boy, like a teenager. And I just don't know enough young teenage actors to sort of throw one out there. So I just don't know. Um, However, if we're going with Nightwing with Scott Adkins, then I'm throwing out, and a lot of people won't know who this is, but I'm going to throw out Derek Klenner. Now, Derek Klenner comes from a Broadway background, but I believe he's got the chops to do it. He's got the charisma to do it. Remember, Nightwing is from the circus. Yeah, that's his background. So if we're going with sort of a middle point, he's Derek Klenner's got the Broadway performing chops to do it. He's also got the looks down pat. So I think Derek Klenner teamed up with Scott Adkins would be a great sort of Batman Nightwing combination. Um, yeah, Barbara Gordon. I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat with a Robin. I think in my universe, Barbara would be a little bit younger than Nightwing, maybe fresh out of high school or college aged. Just a few years younger than Nightwing would be, or in high school. And I don't know enough young female actors who could do it. I just don't. Like, it's not my expertise. Sorry. I don't go looking up the Disney Channel or wherever, young female actresses get abused these days to find them. But I just don't know. And I can't think of any adult actresses who could do justice to the character either. It's just, for me, it's a hard one to cast. And you could throw out any sort of redhead out there, but realistically, most people doing that are like, hey, this girl's got red hair and Barbara Gordon also has red hair, so they could do it. But I'm thinking from like, you've got to have the height, the physicality, the charisma, and the looks, like all in one. And you don't have to be a redhead for that. You could throw a wig on, dye your hair, CG, it doesn't matter. I just can't put my finger on an actress who I think is suitable for the role. So let me know down below who you think would be Barbara Gordon. Jim Gordon, for me, I would cast Titus Welliver. Titus Welliver's been in everything. You don't need me to tell you how fantastic of an actor he is and how much range he is. He's just one of those actors. Titus Welliver, Jim Gordon. That would be great. Which was funny because you could have like Madeline Lintz then technically play Barbara Gordon, and then you could have like a little Bosch reunion with Bosch and Maddie because Madeline Lintz plays Maddie and she is a redhead. So you could do that, but I just don't think she's got the frame to be Barbara Gordon. I mean, you see her in Bosch Legacy when she's wearing the police outfit and she's running around, and it looks like a kid wearing an adult's clothing. Like it just doesn't work. So yeah, I still don't know for Barbara, but Titus Welliver would be Jim Gordon. Harvey Bullock would be Clancy Brown. I don't need to explain that. I think Clancy Brown would be a fantastic Harvey. Montoya would be Jessica Camacho. If you don't know who that is, look her up. She's got the look. She's got the attitude. She looks like a Fed. Like, she looks like a detective or a cop or someone in that sort of law enforcement role. So I definitely think that's Montoya. I would have a cameo of Black Canary. She would be training Nightwing or training with Nightwing. Like, Batman would have brought her in and is paying her essentially to train Nightwing or young Robin. And I would have her played by Amy Johnston. If you don't know who Amy Johnston is, look her up. Watch her in Accident Man or any of the other things she's been in. She's basically every Marvel superheroine stunt double. She's got the combat chops to do a Black Canary extremely well, and I think it's time she gets her chance. So that would be my Black Canary. And now we move on to villains. And this is actually a tricky one, like a very, very tricky one. I know for the Joker, if I go the Joker route in the story, it's Jonathan Tucker. Now, if you're looking at me going, who? Or you know who Jonathan Tucker is, but you haven't seen him in much, or you've just Googled him and you're like, what? You need to watch him in Kingdom, where he plays Jay Kalina. Kingdom 2014. It's about a mixed martial arts gym. You got to watch him in that to really understand. Jonathan Tucker has the range. He can portray like the broken human really well. He's got the smile. He's got the looks. He's got the physique. He's very intimidating. He's got a huge range. Jonathan Tucker would be an incredible Joker. So 100% Jonathan Tucker is the Joker in my head. That's who I would cast straight away. No one else it comes to mind, just Jonathan Tucker. And this is where things get tricky because you got to think, well, who else would you have? You got Penguin, Riddler, Ivy, Catwoman, Falcone, and I mean it gets a little bit hard. And it's where I sort of get hung up. This is not easy trying to like really think about who would like, not just like, oh yeah, I would have this person because I like them in this show. Like, no, actually thinking about like, who could do it, who's got the chops to do it, has the physicality to play these roles. So this is where I get kind of stumped. Like, I think like Colin Farrell in The Penguin is a great example as what I'm trying to say here. None of you would have said, oh, Colin Farrell would make a great Penguin. But then you look at what they did with him in the Batman and you go, oh yeah, that's right. Actors can kind of act sometimes. Like they're really good at just putting things together. So I don't know. I would definitely have Jonathan Tucker as a Joker. Nicolas Cage would be my Riddler. Come on. You got to have Nicolas Cage as the Riddler. And then everyone else I get kind of stuck with, to be honest with you. I really don't know. But I do have a kind of fly on the wall, throw some mud at the fan kind of thing. And that's Clayface. And this just is because of the idea of a Batman story that I have. So for me, I would have Clayface as one of the villains. I think it's time we had a Clayface movie. And I would have him played by Bradley Cooper. I just think that's a perfect casting. Bradley Cooper is so good at playing different characters. Like if you look at him in The Hangover and you look at him in like Wedding Crashers, and then you go and look at him in American Sniper, but then you go and look at him in Maestro and you're like, oh wow, Bradley Cooper can play a lot of different characters. And for a character like Clayface who can literally change his face into different characters, you want someone who can do that. And I really think Bradley Cooper's the guy for it. So that's kind of like the best I have for casting. Let me know how I did. Get really mad at me in the comments if you want. Call me an idiot. I don't care. This is the fun part of these videos. It's just using my imagination and, you know, seeing what people can do, and throwing some stuff out there from that sort of wider perspective. Now, in terms of story, this is where things get a little bit different, because like when you're casting someone, it's one thing to cast someone for something, but without a story, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And this is where things get complicated. My Batman story would be, I would take a lot of influence from movies like Sanjuro and Yojimbo, specifically like those two movies. And what I mean by that is I would have like this sort of, I'm thinking year 2, year 3 Batman, like he's around, he's doing good, but he still hasn't got all the tech and he's still making a name for himself, but people know who he is. And I would have a gang war, right? Between the Sal Maroni and Carmine Falcone, right? I would have them duking it out on the streets, okay? Doing their thing, and Batman's kind of like doing his detective work. But what I would also have is Clayface is the actual main villain. And Clayface is doing the nameless samurai thing where like he's kind of, you know, using his abilities to play these two crime families against each other. And Batman's sort of investigating these crimes that he believes are done by either Falcone or Maroni, right? But he can't quite figure it out because how can this person be in two places at once? Like that's the thing that he keeps getting stuck on. And obviously he doesn't know who Clayface is yet. And so, you know, he finds a little bit of clay or something at a crime scene and he runs it through the back computer and it's stumping him. And that's the mystery, is these gang crimes keep happening and Batman always feels like he's one step behind. And so he goes and he has like while he's trying to solve this, the other villains are doing stuff, kind of like in Long Halloween, how like Joker steals the plane and things like that. And if you watch like Batman the radio show, the HBO one, the audio drama, which is quite fun actually, like that's sort of the tone I'd have. Like Batman's never doing just one thing. He's not focused on one villain. It's like he's bouncing between like Joker and Riddler and Catwoman and all that, like trying to do his thing. Meanwhile, all of this stuff is happening on top of it. Um, and you've got this gang war that he's trying to solve, and you use the other villains to sort of twist and turn and red herring him away and pull him away from things and distract him, until he finally realizes what's going on. I would actually open the movie with either John Hamm or Ralph Fiennes, depending on which Batman we go with, playing Alfred, and they're going to be sort of rescuing Batman or Bruce. Like, so we're going to have, like, it starts with, like, Batman who's lost a battle, and he's sort of banged up and injured, or he's stuck somewhere, etc. And Alfred's, like, in the car, being like, hang on, Bruce, I'm coming to get you. Or like it starts with Alfred, like, making a tea or something, and cleaning the manor when, like, his little alert bracelet goes off, and it's like Batman's in danger, because the bat suit has the vitals on him. So then Alfred goes and actually rescues Bruce. And I would have, like, because Alfred, once again, his background is military. He's a military background. That's why he was brought in, to help, like, butler the Waynes, because he's also security. So I would have Alfred go in, guns blazing, like military style, like he's locked and loaded. He's beaten people up. He's, and he drags Bruce out of whatever trouble he's got into. And then they sort of have, like, in the next morning when Bruce wakes up, a sort of a comedic but heartfelt sort of discussion about what he's been doing. And then from there, I would bring in all the other criminals and the crime, etc., just to sort of set that tone of, like, I think it's about time we've seen Alfred actually be a badass, because everyone seems to forget that scene in Injustice where Alfred takes the pill to make him equal strength to Superman, and he beats the shit out of Superman. And I think we need to see that Alfred. We don't need to see the old man butler Alfred who's got no chops. We need to see the kick-ass military Alfred more. So that's kind of it. It would start with that, and then, you would have Bullock, Montoya, and Jim Gordon sort of investigating these crimes, and then Jim sort of, while Batman's doing his thing, and then Jim sort of calls Batman in as like, hey, like, it makes no sense, we need your help. And then it's going to be a detective story from there, with Batman bouncing between different villains while trying to solve this one main crime, for the very end where, he realizes what's going on, and we know it's Clayface, and Clayface has kind of turned everyone against each other to sort of become the new crime lord of Gotham, and take everyone's, basically rub them all blind. Yeah, that's my Batman. And that's the idea I have. Obviously, if I was seriously doing this, and like DC had given me a lump of money and said, do Batman, that's the concept I would have. And this is where I would shop it with people I trust, and I would write drafts and get into the nitty gritty. But I'm not getting paid to write Batman, so we're not doing that. This is just this is my casting, and sort of the idea I would have, if somehow if I had a magic wand and DC approached me and said, hey, Mineya, we want you to do the next Batman thing because we like what you're doing here. That's what I would do. So that's just a little bit of fun. Let me know in the comments what you think about my casting and the story idea, what you would do if you agree with any of the castings, disagree. Help me find some actors and actresses for Robin and Barbara Gordon if you want. Let me know your thoughts, and I will see you whenever I next see you guys.